Hello guys, Esic Hydra here, and in today's video we're going to be going through the roadmap in as much detail as I can possibly give you. I'm going to be combining the roadmap with all of the info they gave us from the developer stream, as well as all of the info I've been given from the conversations I've had with the in-game developers thus far to give you, well, everything that you know that's out in the open, basically just a little bit more detail than what's currently written. Okay, there are no things here that aren't already in the public domain, but it's quite hard to keep up with all of the spicy leaks that have been given to us over time, so I'm going to wrap it all up for you in this video. So first up, the TL, the DR of the whole roadmap change is really a couple of minor tweaks. We've seen PvP has brought way forward up to June, that's right, this month, ideally being released in the next few weeks, maybe towards the end of the month, but hopefully in the first half. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. And what we've seen is just a little bit of a shift back of some of the other things, like the fortress systems been sort of postponed till after this chunk of the roadmap. I think the Dark Elder and a couple of other features have also been pushed a little bit further back as well. So we're really focusing on core gameplay mechanics, but as well as that, there is a load more detail and loads of stuff to be excited about. So let's start cracking on through. What you'll see with the main roadmap here is 1, 2, and 3 we have already gone through. Okay, we've had 1, 2, 3, so let's get straight into number 4 and see what we've got coming up this month, maybe even in a couple of weeks. So obviously PvP basic gameplay for early test release. This is going to be like an arena mode, very basic, very just sort of get people fighting each other and get a rough sense of balance and see what works and what doesn't. And then obviously we're going to be expanding this later. We'll talk about that later on in the roadmap. Expanded crafting, we don't know what's coming next, but it's safe to say that one of the tabs will likely open up, so we'll see some form of either item modification or some form of purification. We'll be able to do something extra with the crafting. Can't wait to see that. Now, the new terrain subsettings, we're not getting necessarily a new map type, but we're getting some sub-map types. So you'll notice we have different types of space station already, some with corridors, some with wide open bits. I believe there's going to be a low lighting setting that was suggested by one of the developers before. That's not been confirmed in stone, but remember what we're getting here is a new subsetting for the maps that we have at the moment. As, say, the outside walkway setting and planetary setting doesn't have a subsetting type, we might see some changes there. We'll just have to wait and see. As for the mining planets as well, that might also be getting some subsettings. Who knows, we'll just have to wait and find out there. New music, can't tell you what it is, but new music is always welcome. I like the direction they've been going with it thus far. Seems to be heading in the right direction. It's getting a little bit more action orientated and a bit of less sort of wah 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 and a bit more like bang bang blap blap blap. All looks good. Let's move on to number 5, July. July is a big step, and generally speaking what you'll have noticed in the actual roadmap is we're going little step, big step each month, so we're alternating. So July, big step, so better performance. That does not mean the game is fully optimized, okay? The game has not been released yet, but better performance. So they're changing some render pipeline revisions, basically how the game loads textures and things like that. We'll get some tweaks, so we might all see a little bit of a frame rate jump in this. It's going to be the most polished version thus far. Of course, that is not to say that the game is finished and completely polished, so do not expect this to be fully optimized yet, but it will hopefully run better. Now, introducing tiers, all we know is that they are a form of end game content, and there's obviously going to be multiple tiers because we're just getting the first one and can't wait to see it. And attached to tiers are arena POIs and relic items. Again, relic items, we don't know what they are. One can presume that they're some form of customizable weapon. They may just be unique weapons. We'll have to wait and find out. The GUI panels too are going to be enhanced. Lots of people have mentioned that they look a little bit pixelated and a little bit washed. They're kind of not placeholders, but they kind of are the final thing. They're basically going to be vamped and turned into a final product that's a little bit more polished than what is currently there. So we're going to see the GUI look slightly more spangly, and this is the sort of combat GUI. We're seeing the skills and those placeholders replaced at a later date, so a lot of the other stuff will come at a later date. Missions and monster rebalance, so that goes without saying, basically changing healths and mission types, etc., mission lengths and whatnot. And then we move on to skills for both classes being rebalanced. So we'll see our first character balance within July. Assassin Inquisitors will get class-specific perks and passive skills as well. We don't know what they are exactly, we know nothing about them, but having their own perks and skills is going to be really nice, meaning that, well, there's just that extra little bit of difference between the two skills. Now, the render pipeline revision, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't mean that the pipes on the map look better. It is a way in which the game processes textures and loads them. So again, they're mentioning it's going to be about 90% completed, but it's going to look better. Lighting will look better. And they've also mentioned more props, and graphically the game will just start to look more pleasing. Worth noting, though, that it already looks pretty pleasing, so I can't wait to see what they do here. And next, moving on, new investigation modules. They mentioned specifically within the stream that the current investigation really is bare bones and, you know, very minimal. So we're going to see that our first taste of the investigation coming into light with this. We're going to, well, we don't know what to expect, but we know it's going to be much more than what we have currently. And I think we can all agree that currently the investigations are, well, they're just a string of missions. It is a little bit dull, but we'll actually really see these things come into play and see what happens here. Now, also we have the pistol sword, pistol shield combo coming back in July. Can't wait to see that, as well as the Assassin Inquisitor two-handed weapons. No news yet on what that actually includes or what those weapons are. Try to have a little dig through the lore as well and can't find anything. If you've got any ideas, stick them down in the comments below. Moving on to number 6, Rebels. The Imperial Guard Rebel faction are going to be introduced. 15 new enemy types. That's quite a lot. I think we've currently not even got 15 enemy types for Nurgle. So that is quite a lot. I think if you look back at their old footage, you can see what looks to be like some Imperial Guard rebels. There's some very sort of soldier-esque looking enemies, so it might be some of those skins making a return. I don't know, but looking forward to that. A new enemy type that can appear on an enemy map is fantastic and nice to have. New map terrain setting. Obviously, we've got 3 at the moment. We've got the outdoor planet, the indoor space station, and we've got the swamp-like planet. We're going to see one more, so that's obviously good to see. The new PvP game mode is going to be a form or similar but different to domination, so some form of controlling points. Dave made a point explicitly at saying it is a control game mode. It does have some key differences to domination, so we'll have to see what they're doing here, but I'm really excited to see that they're doing some objective-based combat, because I think that'll go down much better with the players than just throwing us in arenas with each other. Now, more perks and more passive skills. I believe they've mentioned 50 in total is what they're aiming for perks. More passive skills, well, it's safe to say they'll just be upping the total power level, then something to look forward to. Oh, sorry, the total account level, something to look forward to. Pistol usage for the Assassin Inquisitor. All I can tell you thus far is the Exeter's pistol and the Needle pistol are currently in design. That was confirmed within game, so I'm not breaking any do not disclose stuff with this. That was confirmed in game by one of the developers in chat. So let's see what we've got in number 7. And damn, does this look big. Look at that. That is a huge wall of text. So obviously polished gameplay, basic elements and GUI. So the GUI by this point will be finished. Final version 3D. They're going to make it 3D. I don't know how it'll look, but it'll look better. I have no idea what RPG combat and feedback is going to be, but one would presume that they're going to be talking a little bit more about the combat features and taking more feedback about that, putting in the final elements of the combat play. We've already seen new abilities being added to enemies, so perhaps this is something along that line. Tactical elements in combat and their display. I think it's safe to say that we might start seeing debuff counters and things like that. Things that force you to react, moves that force you to do certain things. It's something we've been asking for, we're starting to see, be nice to see them more. Now the 3D World Open GUI I'm looking forward to seeing because, well, currently the GUI I think looks pretty good, but I'm really excited to see what they change. GUI Panels Unified basically meaning that there is currently lots of different tiles that make up the GUI. It's basically going to be combined into one and made to look a bit prettier. Pretty simple. New mission types. Now we don't know what all of them are, but we do know there's going to be at least 50. And they've mentioned the endless ones, or rather, I think it was Megapol that mentioned that he'd read about these. This is going to be basically an arena mode where you go down to a certain planets will have these. You go down to the planet and you are tasked with killing as much as you can before you die. Now, this is kind of hard to tie into an actual story mission. It should kind of read, you go down to a planet and kill as many as you can before you get teleported out just before you die. Because intentionally dying in an ARPG sounds a bit odd to me. But I really like the idea of doing a horde mode. Loads of people have asked for it. And this is the sort of mission that doing with your friends is probably going to give you hours and hours of entertainment. Can't wait. Combat tutorials, obviously these are needed because the game is fairly hard. We've got to wait till September, so for now we'll just have to put up with forum threads of people saying that they don't know what they're doing. That's fine. Eventually we'll see some tutorials starting to come in. Open world basic tutorials too. Investigation 2.0. This is basically going to be investigations made more towards their final version. Obviously, they're going to be doing a reset in this point because they're rebalancing a lot of the game. You can see they're resetting character development. They're going to be changing how much XP you need to level up and things like that. So we're all going to have to start again in September and play through our characters, level them up. 30 plus perks at this point we're going to be having. And a new passive skill tree for the Assassin separate to the Crusader. Quite interesting. I have no idea what's going to be on it, but it's something to look forward to. All of the weapon types are going to be released at this point, so hopefully there'll be a lot of different stuff. There's no mention on here for the radical or demonic weapons, but they would presumably be implemented at some point. They also haven't mentioned this system, although they have, and to give you some reassurance, explicitly said stuff like the fortress system. Or nothing has been removed from the map. Some stuff has been postponed till after this final content update. Do bear in mind that the game is due to be released by the end of the year, so there is going to be stuff that's not on this current roadmap that's sort of added afterwards. This, I think, is the roadmap of how we're going to get from alpha to beta. After all of this stuff is in, then I think we can look forward to basically probably the game going into beta, getting more people testing it, and then they'll add some other things as well onto the end, like the other class. No specific date set as well for the Psyker. So let's move on. So 2 classes released by September. Obviously we've got 2 already, but they're completed by this point. Adjusted rebalance, loot systems, etc. Loot drops are going to take into account your items and passive skills. We don't know much more about this, but it's a very interesting concept. Something done in Vermintide, where depending on what item you equip, you could choose which character you got gear for. So this may just mean you get class specific items more often. It might mean that if you're wearing melee that you get more melee items. We don't really know. It's an interesting concept. Look forward to seeing what they do here. Tarot loot system 2.0, so loads more cards, loads more different drops, rebalancing and control drops. We don't know what they are, but opening up the tarot system can only be good. I presume rebalancing may also mean some changes to the fate cost. Who knows? Who knows? Adjusted and rebalanced open world base systems. We have no idea what this is. I have no idea whatsoever. So we'll have to just wait and see. One can assume that maybe there's a base involved. Sounds promising though. Investigation density and loot. Don't know again what's changing, but it's basically everything at this point is getting final balancing, final tweaking changes. The protector system, we do know that this is basically whoever's grinded the most per sector is going to get a title of being the protector of the region. So grind the game a load, you get that title for however long that it is. I think it's a week, and you get a pet while you're the protector. That's basically it. It's sort of a leaderboard of glory that you've gained. It's something just to sort of show off an extra little feature. Leaderboards are always nice to see who's playing the game lots and who's been slacking off in their inquisitorial duties. 5 different terrain settings with several subsettings with 40 levels. This is something to look forward to. New maps are always going to be interesting. They've said they're very excited about them and they can't tell us what they are. Previously, I seem to remember them mentioning monasteries, xenoplanets, ruins, more outdoor stuff as well. We don't know much more about it, but safe to say, I think they had some great ideas for maps. We'll just have to see what actually comes here. And as well, the 3 enemy factions realised fully, with the exception of the big bosses. So this means we'll probably have seen champions by then. We've seen a hinting clip, or picture rather, of a Beast of Nurgle within Discord, so that's likely that there will be new enemies included by here. There's also no mention of Night Lords. We know they're coming fairly soon as well. That was confirmed by Gergo in the interview I did with him on Monday. And final music direction, etc. And upgrading Cabals and Cabal missions. We don't know what they are, but something to look forward to, guys. This is obviously not the final roadmap, because there's no season included with this. There's no Dark Elder. I think this is going to be enough to keep us busy until the game is probably ready to move into beta, in which case then they'll start messing around with seasons, Dark Elder, Night Lords, all the other stuff that's due, fortress systems, things like that, the added fluff. And they did say the game they were still hoping would be released in the last quarter of the year. However, they did also confirm if the game is not ready, they will not push it out. Hopefully that gives you a bit more of an understanding regarding the roadmap and gives you as much info as we have as to what's being included. Guys, have a great weekend. Tomorrow's video is going to be about PvP because it's going to be a hot potato subject. Guys, take care, all the best, and stuff.